Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Medill Sports Talk from our beautiful downtown Chicago studios. Today's show features a look at the NFL playoff picture as we enter the divisional round, a breakdown of the upcoming Australian Open, and the latest coming out of the NBA. My name is Jake Rietma, and today I'm joined by Daniel Comer and Darren Zaslow. And guys, we'll start on the gridiron talking about the NFL playoffs. They're in full swing, and the defending champions are at the center of postseason controversy resulting from a Seth Wickersham article on ESPN.com profiling a number of issues within that Patriot organization. Most significantly, conflict between head coach Bill Belichick, franchise quarterback Tom Brady, and team owner Robert Kraft. In the wake of the Patriots' divisional playoff game against Tennessee, Daniel, I'll ask you first, will the distractions off the field lead to a collapse of the Patriot empire as we know it?
I don't believe that these off-the-field distractions are going to lead to a Patriots collapse. I think even if you lose one of them, say you lose Bill Belichick, you still have Tom Brady, the best quarterback of all time, arguably the best NFL player of all time, guy who says he's now chasing Michael Jordan. And speaking of that as well, I don't think you're going to see a drop-off like you did in the 1990s with the Bulls. It's not going to go from dynasty to 13 wins a season. You know, that's not going to happen in the NFL, especially with Tom Brady still at the helm. You still have the GOAT. And you know what? Belichick without Brady's an under 500 coach. And I really just believe, honestly, that there's no chance that right after this season or next season, if Tom Brady's still quarterbacking that team, coming off probably an MVP campaign this season and a Super Bowl last year, who knows if he's going to round that up and get another one this year, I think that you have a really great base still there. Robert Kraft is an owner who wants to put things in place so the Patriots can win. And honestly, too, if you look at it, Bill Belichick, the reports say that he wanted Jimmy Garoppolo to be around. He wanted him to be the quarterback. He wanted to leave the Patriots in good shape, right? I believe that Tom Brady also wants to do that. I don't think he wants to see a drop-off in his franchise, and I genuinely believe that when he's ready to go, he'll be ready to let it go, and he'll mentor a quarterback when they come in, and I just believe that you're not going to see the traditional drop-off. But sure, you'll see some sort of drop-off when you've had that much greatness for a team.
You certainly make some convincing arguments. And Darren, I'll turn to you. If this Patriots team continues to have those off-field distractions, do you think it's going to affect the play on the field?
Let me ask you guys, have you ever played the game of Jenga, right? Lots of blocks, big tower. It's exactly what this New England Patriots organization is going to look like going into next year. The problem is going to be a lot of missing blocks in that tower. Going to be moving side to side. It's going to be wobbling a lot. Why? Not for the reason that Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft, and Tom Brady are having disagreements. That's not what it is. How about taking a look at who's running this team in addition to Kraft and Belichick? Josh McDaniels, the team's offensive coordinator. Matt Patricia, the team's defensive coordinator. I think both of those coordinators are going to be gone next year. Look at where Josh McDaniels has interviewed the New York Giants, the Indianapolis Colts. How about Matt Patricia also has interviewed with the Detroit Lions as well. So here's the thing. If both of those coordinators are gone, you're going to leave a huge hole in terms of coaching, in terms of the people who have been the staple to this New England Patriots organization. Another big issue, we talk about this big Jenga tower, missing blocks. You're missing a huge block this year in Dante Hightower as well, middle linebacker who missed a ton of games. That injury, there's no guarantees if he's going to be back next year. A defensive hole and a hole in coaching that could absolutely make this organization tumble to the ground.
That in mind, the last block of Jenga has been pulled and it just collapsed. The Patriots are no more. The Patriot empire, that is. Let me ask you this. Who do you like as the next NFL franchise to establish themselves as the premier team in the league?
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's the boys in black and gold. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. No doubt in my mind. You look at the skill player positions that, in my mind, absolutely are going to be returning next year. Big Ben Roethlisberger, Le'Veon Bell, the Steelers running back, Antonio Brown, best receiver on this planet. Bell, the best running back on this planet as well. There is no better trio of skill position players in the NFL than at Heinz Field you'll see every Sunday with the Pittsburgh Steelers. No doubt in my mind they're the team to beat.
Okay, first of all, I think that's a very flawed argument from the jump. Assuming that Bill Belichick is going to leave is something we can't do. We don't know that. If they keep winning and he's happy, I don't know Bill Belichick. I don't know what goes on in his head. We don't know that he's going to leave. So saying that if they drop off, or Bill Belichick leaves, he retires, whatever he does, they might fall apart. I still think Robert Kraft is going to put the pieces together so that that team is successful. With that being said, your argument that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be the next dynasty. If you're talking about a dynasty, what the Patriots have done the past 8 years, been the 1 or 2 seed. Ben Roethlisberger's been there during that time. They haven't been the 1 or 2 seed in the past 8 years consecutively. Patriots have made the playoffs 9 years in a row, put together a string of Super Bowls during that time. There's no chance that the Pittsburgh Steelers, with aging Ben Roethlisberger, who was making comments that intimated that he might be done after this season, during this season, Le'Veon Bell, who's going through contract disputes, you're telling me that those guys, just because those 3 positions, also, you probably lost Ryan Shazier, and it's a very sad situation, but you lost another great player there. You're losing potentially 3, 4 guys, and you're telling me at the end of Ben Roethlisberger's career that they're going to string off another dynasty that's comparable to the New England Patriots. I just think that that's flawed, and I think that's wrong. You have to look at a team maybe like Philadelphia, who's got a young quarterback who's coming through, but still to put the pieces together and to do what the Patriots have done over the past decade with a Tom Brady, with a Bill Belichick, with a Rob Kraft. Those are pieces that doesn't happen every day. That's so rare. I don't think that you can say, oh, there's just going to be a team that's going to step right in line with that.
Okay, but you're completely undermining the jobs and the importance of Josh McDaniels and Matt Patricia to this team. Could look like a completely different offense and defense next year, but you know what? Let's pretend that you're right, which you're not, but let's pretend that you are. Here's the other problem. How about free agency next year for the New England Patriots? Brandon Cooks, Julian Edelman, the top 2 receivers on the Patriots, could absolutely be gone next year. How about that other guy named, Dion Lewis? An elite running back, in my opinion, this year in the National Football League, could also be gone next year. So you're losing 2 premier receivers in this organization, an excellent running back, your 2 coordinators, and who knows how Dante Hightower is going to be next year. How about Julian Edelman, right? People forget about Julian Edelman. Tore his ACL, missed the entire season. 3 receivers, huge question marks. That being said, the Pittsburgh Steelers, do not give up on that team, even if they lose to New England this year. Next year, you've got a lot of players coming back. How about the acquisition of Joe Hayden at the cornerback position? Huge for this secondary that has struggled, especially covering guys like Rob Gronkowski. It's a team that is going to continue to improve year after year.
I think we both can agree the future of the NFL is it's certainly exciting, but we don't necessarily have the answer. You both make very convincing arguments, but I want to get it back to this year, 2018 NFL playoffs. We had wild card weekend last weekend. A couple of teams looked pretty impressive. So Daniel, I will ask you first, of the teams that won in wild card weekend, who do you like to continue that momentum and maybe even make some noise into the conference championships and, dare I say, onto the Super Bowl?
I like the Atlanta Falcons. I know that last year there was this huge disappointment. They're coming off this Super Bowl hangover. But I think that they have the easiest path to make it to the Super Bowl. I think they're playing a depleted Philadelphia team without Carson Wentz at quarterback. Nick Foles was atrocious after his first game that he stepped in. And I think when you talk about easiest path, yes, I don't know what happens when the Saints play the Falcons if they both make it that far, but every team, every coach always stresses, let's just win the next one. Let's win the next one. And I think the Falcons have a better chance of winning the next one and then going farther. I think when you look at like the AFC, I don't think the Jaguars are going to make it. I don't see the Titans making it. And even if they did, I would still put the Falcons with a higher probability of making some noise when it gets to that next level. Falcons have a lot to come back from. They're starting to hit their stride. They're scoring some points. Their offense is looking a little bit better. It's progressed throughout the season. I really like the Falcons. They came off a road win last week against one of those young quarterbacks.
Looked very impressive.
And they're going to Philadelphia. It's going to be good weather outside. Falcons fans love to see that. This is an indoor team, and I truly believe that this Falcons team is going to at least have the opportunity to make it back to the Super Bowl and possibly make some noise and make up for last year's disappointment.
They are a road favorite, which you don't see very often in the playoffs. Darren, I know where your heart is, but of the teams that won last weekend, who do you like?
Well, it's another team that begins with the letter S. This time they're down south. It's the New Orleans Saints. They were the most impressive, a 31-26 victory over the Carolina Panthers. Loved the job that Drew Brees did under center. 26 of 36 through the air, 376 touchdowns and 2 touchdowns as well. He was able to get multiple players involved with this offense. Michael Thomas, Ted Ginn. On a down game for the running back position with Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram, Drew Brees was able to put this offense on his back like he has done year in and year out.
I think the Falcons have a better shot. I think that offensively, defensively, they have a more complete team than the Saints. And I also look at Drew Brees in his past 4 games. He's in his past 4 playoff games. He's had more interceptions than Matt Ryan. In the playoffs, people always talk about turnovers. Matt Ryan, his past 4 playoff games, 0 turnovers, zero interceptions, 10 touchdowns. So I'm looking at Matt Ryan. I'm looking at the Falcons to recoup for last year's very, very, very disappointing collapse. And I think that you're wrong.
Daniel's obviously taken Matt Ryan, and the quarterback position cannot be understated how important that is. As we close here, tell me why Drew Brees is the best quarterback for the Saints to lead them past.
Well, first of all, thanks for insulting Drew Brees and all he's done by saying Matt Ryan. Yes, Matt Ryan, correct? A more elite player. Not even close. Not even a question. It's Drew Brees. Why? Look what he's done. He's a Super Bowl champion. Yeah, he's a Super Bowl MVP as well. 11-time Pro Bowl selection. Matt Ryan has been to 4 Pro Bowls. He's played a few years less. But this year, when you compare the two, I mean, it's an insulting question to Drew Brees to put Matt Ryan in the same sentence with him. Drew Brees, a 72% completion rate, 23 touchdowns. Here's where the two differentiate. Matt Ryan, 12 interceptions to Drew Brees' 8. He's better. He's more consistent throwing the football. Drew Brees, no questions asked, significantly more elite player, the quarterback I would want on my team between him and Matt Ryan.
Certainly shaping up to be an exciting weekend of NFL playoff action. But we're going to take a quick break. Both of you guys, thank you for getting us ready for the NFL playoff. But don't go anywhere. When we come back, Nick Mantis, Ananya Johari, and Connor Yan are going to take us through their favorites of the Australian Open. We'll be right back here on Medill Sports Talk.
At Northwestern, we're Wildcats in every way.
Cheer you all the go.
Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
Hello everyone and welcome back. It's tennis time here on Medill Sports Talk. The Australian Open starts on Monday and the matchup draws were released last night. We're breaking down who's in, who's out, the favorites to win it all, and the underdogs to watch out for. My name is Nick Mantis, and I'm joined by Ananya Johari and Connor Yan. Guys, let's get right into it. Ananya, I'm going to start with you. Now, Andy Murray was injured, and he's out of this Australian Open, which leaves some opportunities for the other top 10 guys to win this Grand Slam. Who are your favorites to win in the men's singles?
So, Nick, when we discuss favorites, we have to start with Federer and Nadal. They're the top 2 players right now, the top 2 seeds, arguably the greatest 2 in the history of the game. So Roger Federer came back last year after a 6-month injury break. He wasn't seated very high, but he still went through the draw, beat 4 top 10 players, including Nadal in the final. And I don't see any reason why he can't do it again. He's in great form, won 2 majors last year. His ranking rose from 17 to 2. And he's already won the Hopman Cup for Switzerland this year. He defeated everyone. He didn't lose a single match. And then Nadal, the top ranked player right now, also won 2 majors last year. And he lost to Federer in the final, but I don't see another reason why we can't see a Federer-Nadal final again this year.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, Nadal and Federer, unquestionably, they're the best 2 players of all time, in my opinion. They're the top 2 major winners, and they're really great players. But 2017 was a bit of a throwback. If you look at the last 4 to 5 years, Roger Federer's last title before 2017 in Australia came in 2012. And Nadal, he won later in the season at the French Open and then again in New York. But before that, it was 2014 when he last won his title. And so when you look at that in the big picture, 2017 is the outlier there. And so I think with Murray out, Djokovic dealing with injuries and just poor play, I think that it opens the door for a couple of young guys, namely Sasha Zverev. He's a 20-year-old, had a real breakout season last year, and he won 5 total titles, 2 Masters 1000 events, which he became the first to do that outside of the top 4, or the big 4, since 2007 when David Nalbandian did it. But he's looking really good. The only thing he hasn't done yet really is make a run in a major. He's only gone to the 4th round. That's the furthest he's made it. But I think this year, after a full offseason of working on his stamina, his strength, endurance, he'll be ready to go for a 2-week best-of-5 set major. And then you look at Grigor Dimitrov. He's the number 3 seed coming in. And he had a lot of comparisons to Federer early in his career. I think that maybe hampered him a little bit. It put a little bit of pressure on him. But he's kind of past that now. He's developed into his own player. He's playing the best tennis of his career. He was a finalist in Brisbane earlier this month, and I think he's ready to go for a run of Australia.
I'm also a big fan of both Sasha Zverev and Grigor Dimitrov, but I don't see them winning 7 consecutive matches at a Grand Slam, winning 7 5-set matches. And the main reason I think that is because they have really tough draws here. So if you look at the draw, Sasha Zverev has a chance of facing his brother Misha in the 3rd round, and Misha beat Andy Murray at the Australian Open last year. So that's not going to be easy. Misha is one of the few players who still employs the serve and volley technique. Apart from Federer, there are only a few other players left to do that. Then in the 4th round, he has a potential match against Novak Djokovic, which is going to be incredibly tough for Sasha. And the 4th round is the farthest he's ever been in a Grand Slam. And it only gets tougher from there. And same with Grigor Dimitrov. He starts with 2 qualifiers. Those can be easy matches, but in the 3rd round, he faces Andrei Rublev, who's upcoming star from Russia. He beat Grigor Dimitrov at the US Open, so he knows how to beat Dimitrov at the biggest stages. So his 3rd round matches against him. Then the 4th round, he's going to face Tsonga or Kyrgios, and both players have troubled him in the past, and they're not going to be easy matches. So I agree that they're both great players, and they'll probably win majors in the future. But I don't think this is the time for them right now. I don't think they'll be doing it right now, winning 7 matches.
Those first draws you were saying, and specifically, those could be interesting. Are there intriguing first round draws that you are looking forward to?
There are some very, very interesting first round matches. The one that I'm most looking forward to is the one between Thomas Berdych and Alex de Minaur. So Alex de Minaur, not a lot of people have heard about him. He's an upcoming 18-year-old player and who's had like a terrific past 2 weeks. So in the ATP event at Brisbane, he reached the semi-final. He beat Milos Raonic and Steve Johnson of America to reach the semi-final. He became the youngest player to reach an ATP semi-final since 2016. And then earlier this week, he's already beaten Feliciano Lopez, Fernando Verdasco, and Benoit Paire, and he's in the final in Sydney right now. He'll play the final tomorrow. So although he's ranked outside the top 100 right now, but he could be a handful for Thomas Berdych. So Berdych is a former top 5 player, but his career has been on the decline for the past couple of years. And in a first round, you ideally want to face someone who you can just get into stride with. And I think Minaur could be a tough opponent for Thomas Berdych.
Connor, let me volley that over to you. Now, do you have a must-watch in the first round that we got to see?
Yeah. So first off, I really want to see Nick Kyrgios play. He's the hometown guy.
Yeah.
The crowd will be behind him. He's coming off of a win in Brisbane. He beat Dimitrov in the final, and he's looking really good. He's an exciting player to watch. A lot of times the emotions can take him away from the game, and they cause him problems. He's crashed out of majors real early. Last year he didn't make it past the 2nd round, and so from that standpoint, it'll be exciting to watch. He's playing Dutra Silva, so he doesn't have on paper a tough matchup, but with him, you never know. You'll have the exciting crowd atmosphere behind him, so I think tracking him as a potential threat to make a run, I think that'll be exciting. And also, as far as just a round 1 matchup to watch that'll be fun, Juan Martín del Potro has recently cracked into the top 10, and he's playing Francis Tiafoe, the young American who took Federer to 5 sets in the first round at the US Open last fall. And him against Del Potro, there's a lot of power. Tiafoe has a funky swing. So it'll be a fun matchup to watch, both entertaining players.
Now, you mentioned Tiafoe. And speaking about Americans, the top 4 American women all made the US Open semifinal last year. Venus, who ranks first out of those American, followed by Coco Vandalay, Sloane Stephens, then Madison Keys. Now, Venus did make 2 finals last year, as well as 1 semi in 2017. Now, do you can not only consider, but think that there'll be a resurgence and there will be more, I'd say, competitiveness, not only for titles, but specifically this Australian title as well?
So the American women, as you mentioned, had a great time at those US Open. So 4 of them made the semifinals. So Sloane Stephens won the title that year, but she's been very inconsistent since then. She's lost, I think, 6 or 7 matches. She hasn't won a single match since she won the title at the US Open. At the same time, you mentioned Venus. She's had like a second win to her career. She's ranked number 5 right now. And she's never won the Australian Open title. And she reached the final last year, lost to Serena. This year with Serena not playing, she would fancy her chances. She might be feeling that this is her year, and she could finally add that Australian Open trophy to her cabinet. But at the same time, if I have to put my money on one American woman to reach the farthest, I'd do it with Coco Vandeweghe. You know, she's been the most consistent one among those four. Yeah. She won all her 8 Fed Cup matches last year, took US to the title. And again, earlier this year, she played the Hopman Cup. She won all her matches. All the US didn't reach the final, but she won her matches. So I think Coco Vandeweghe is the most consistent one, and I think she'd be the one reaching the farthest among the American women.
I think the American women have a chance to make a run in the tournament and do some damage as well, even without Serena. But as far as going all the way and winning it, I think you have to look at current world number 1, Simona Halep. She's been chasing that number 1 ranking for a pretty long time, and that's put pressure on her at times in majors to win and get the number 1 ranking at the same time. And so now I think that she has a chance with Muguruza in her half, struggling with injuries, pulling out of Sydney. With Serena out, I think she's got as good a chance as she's had to win her first major. She's played in finals before. She's made the semis at Wimbledon, so she's ready to win. And also, I'd look at Maria Sharapova to make a run. She's in Muguruza's quarter, and she'll have an open draw. Caroline Garcia is the next highest seed in that quarter. And so I think, you know, she could get a few matches under her feet. She's got her ranking back up to 47 after the suspension, and so she could be a threat as the tournament goes on.
Sharapova brought the trophy out, you know, in those ceremonies as well. Now, you like Kerber, don't you?
Yeah. So I'm a big Kerber fan, and right now, you know, last year she didn't have quite the great season last year, but she knows how to win this title. She has won the Australian Open before. She won it in 2016, and she beat Serena of all people in the final. It's never easy to beat Serena in a final, and she's been a former world number 1. And right now, her ranking has declined to around 21 in the world. And so the focus is not on her. But I think that can, in a way, help her. There won't be a lot of pressure on Kerber to, you know, perform and, you know, get to the final. But I think, you know, she could make a deep run. And, you know, this year she's been in terrific form. She was the only unbeaten women's player in the Hopman Cup. You know, she didn't even lose a single set throughout the Hopman Cup. And she's beaten players like Venus Williams, Lucy Safarova, and Daria Gavrilova this year. So she's on a hot streak right now. She's won 8 consecutive matches, and you know she also has a favorable draw. I think except Maria Sharapova, there's no one really in a quarter who's going to stop her from reaching there. So I think we should definitely keep an eye out for Kerber.
Definitely. Now, well, that's game, set, and match from us here. When we come back, Lauren Rosen, Jordan Klein, and Hogan Davis discuss Isaiah Thomas' start in the Cavaliers and the rest of the Eastern Conference in the NBA. This is Medill Sports Talk.
At Northwestern University, we are pioneering innovation and achieving excellence across every imaginable discipline. At Northwestern University, the possibilities are endless.
Welcome back to Medill Sports Talk. I'm Lauren Rosen, joined today by Jordan Klein, TED Talk Wonder Kid, and Hogan Davis, the pride of Central Missouri. Guys, let's talk NBA. Isaiah Thomas made his Cavaliers debut last week after spending the first part of the season sidelined with a hip injury. Over his first 4 games, alongside LeBron James, IT is averaging 12.3 points on restricted minutes. Over the first 2 games he played against Portland and Orlando, he shot over 50% from the field. But last night, Thomas was 0 for 10 in the first half as the Cavs suffered a 34-point loss against the Raptors. Jordan, last year in Boston, Thomas averaged a whopping 28.9 points. Based on what you've seen so far from him this season, do you think he'll ever match those historic stats from last year?
No, I don't think so. And there's an analogy that comes to mind for me when we think about IT situation last year. You know those stories that you hear about a mom whose kid is trapped under a truck, and then she gains like this superhuman Hulk strength to like lift the truck because her kid's trapped underneath it? That's what IT had to do last year with the Boston Celtics. He had to carry their offense. This year with the Cavs, he doesn't have to do that because he's kind of playing with LeBron James, who I'm not sure if y'all have heard of him, but he is the best player in the world, some would say. So you don't have to carry that offensive load anymore. I think he's still going to be a great player, even though he did struggle last night. In his first 4 games, he performed absolutely fabulously. But he doesn't have to be that kind of a player anymore. The weight is no longer on his shoulders.
I mean, I have to agree with Jordan. There's no way that Isaiah is going to be able to replicate that kind of a season. The kind of things he did in the fourth quarter last year, the efficiency he had, and it's worth pointing out that he's playing for one of the best strategic coaches in the league under Brad Stevens, and having that kind of a coach designing an offense that's specifically for you, where there are no other shot creators on that team, I don't think he's going to be in a situation like that again. I mean, obviously his struggles here early, coming off of the hip injury, it's a new team playing alongside LeBron James. They're feeling each other out. Dwayne Wade added to the mix too. He's going to struggle a little early. They're going to have trouble getting him in. He's not even playing back-to-backs yet. But once they get together, I think he's going to be back to an all-star level player. But back to that MVP, that was a once-in-a-lifetime type of season.
Guys, here's something interesting. The Cavs have lost 6 of their last 8. Some of those games included IT, some of them did not. Last night, after their pretty bad loss against the Raptors, Ty Lue questioned his players' agendas, while LeBron seemed rather unfazed in his presser. Hogan, are the Cavs just a team of older veterans that are having a slump in January, as they have in the past, or is it time to maybe consider pushing the panic button?
We've had this same conversation the last couple of years with the Cavs. At this point, LeBron's been to 8 straight finals now. They're a team that is waiting for June. They're waiting for the playoffs. LeBron is coasting. The Cavs are coasting. Interesting that Lou would call it the agendas of the team, and I don't know if he's specifically talking basketball, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes too. And earlier in the season, Jay Crowder lost his mom right before the season started. There were complications with the birth of J.R. Smith's daughter, and he's having the worst season of his career. So you wonder if some of these outside issues are involved in some of that play. But you know that, if you don't think that LeBron is going to be able to turn it on for the playoffs, then I don't think you've been watching basketball for the last 15 years.
I would agree with you on that front, but one area I think at least to be concerned is you got to judge body language a little bit, because if you look back on highlights of last night's game, at least this is what I woke up to this morning when I was being my typical millennial self and opening up my day to Instagram. The first thing I see is LeBron James going at his teammates on the sidelines, and that's usually not something that you see from a guy who's coasting in January. But I agree with you. The guy's the best player in the world for a reason. He's selling so many shoes for a reason. It's because he can turn it on when it matters most and be the player that he needs to be to take the Cavs to another finals.
So I wonder what you said, Hogan, about this team. They're one of the older teams in the NBA. They do have families. They are dealing with personal matters off the court. Not that other players aren't. But with an older team, maybe sometimes they're dealing with a little bit more going on. This team also reminds me a lot of the 03-04 Lakers, which we talked about earlier, when Gary Payton and Karl Malone joined Shaq and Kobe, and this became an all-star coalition, not unlike D. Wade and D. Rose joining this team, and they lost in the finals. And you got to wonder if the same thing is going to happen again for the Cavs this year.
I think that they could be like that team and lose in the finals because they're going to be going up against one of the greatest teams that's ever been put together.
The Rockets?
The Golden State Warriors. Let me repeat that. The Golden State Warriors, who will be in the finals.
They can't shoot.
But otherwise, actually, that 03-04 Lakers team, that the last of the Shaq and Kobe years, they got rid of Kyrie Irving. So it looks like Shaq won this round if we're doing the Shaq-LeBron analogy there. So I think this team is going to lose in the finals. and they've got a collection of aging vets, but you can't beat LeBron James in the Eastern Conference,
So
and
are
that's
you-
what it's all going to come down to.
Are you still sure that the Cavs are coming out of the East this year?
Absolutely. LeBron does not get beat in the Eastern Conference. Until someone does, I'm not going to bet against LeBron, and that's what it comes down to.
Jordan, you want to bet against LeBron and Hogan?
I don't know. I don't want to put up money against LeBron. I certainly don't want to put up money against Hogan because I know your history as a gambler. No, I'm just kidding. But that
Apparently
being
you know some
said,
things that I don't.
if you look at the way that the Raptors played last night, they certainly look like a team that can contend in the East, right? I mean, many people were worried when Kyle Lowry goes down and he gets hurt that the Raptors may start to sputter here and there because he's their general on the court. And of course, he's an incredible talent, but they look fantastic last night. And I'm pretty bullish on the young Boston Celtics. I think that Jason Tatum is having probably the best start to a rookie season that you could ask for from him, and his teammate Jaylen Brown across the wing is matching him stat for stat, not to mention Kyrie Irving having one of the best years of his career, 48% from the field, 24 points per game. So I think you got to be worried about the Celtics if you're the Cavs. Am I going to bet against LeBron? I would feel very uneasy doing
I just
so.
wanted to break in real quick.
Yeah.
You talked about Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Which one of those guys is going to shut down LeBron in the Eastern Conference Finals?
No, I mean, that's very true. It's very true. You're going to have to rely on what you called Brad Stevens, one of the best tactician coaches, to try to draw something up in order to stop LeBron James. You can't stop him. You can slow him down, certainly. I still think, though, that the youth that this team has is exciting. It's invigorating. They're hungry. Kyrie Irving is looking to prove that he can be the front man for a franchise now.
And he's playing defense.
And he's playing defense.
Shocker.
Amazing. Yes, I think it's at least a possibility to entertain.
I mean, I'm all about giving credit to Brad Stevens. I think the man has done a great job with Kyrie.
Yeah.
And
Handsome
personally,
man,
if
too.
you know me, you know I never bet against Kyrie, so let's just keep it moving. Now it's time for a Medill Sports Talk first. Guys, we're going to have a quick rapid fire round to close out the show. Each of you will have a chance to answer the following questions in 3 words or less. And you can't repeat each other's answer.
Okay.
Got it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So we're going to start with Jordan.
Figure it out.
Then we'll go to you, Hogan. Name the more iconic duo, LeBron and Kyrie or LeBron and IT?
LeBron and Kyrie. I think a championship in Cleveland will get you that.
It's fair.
I have
You
to
can repeat on
I
this
have
one.
to
There were only
repeat
2
the
options.
same one.
It's our first time doing this.
Okay. LeBron and I'm going to do a couple more words. LeBron and IT, better buddy cop movie.
That's true. Better remake of
Ooh.
Twins, the movie.
Also
Step
good.
Brothers.
Yeah,
All of these are better movies with
all
IT.
the-
You got
I
to have a
agree.
little guy in there.
Fair. Okay, moving on. Hogan, I'll start with you. Best beard in the NBA.
Gasol brothers neckbeards. I'm using neckbeards as one word, by the way.
I would say it's probably a tie between Kristaps Porzingis and Lauri Markkanen. Oh, wait, no, not smoothest faces, beards.
Ah.
I mean, James Harden is obviously in the mix for sure.
I
He's
will
gotta
say,
be the top
LeBron
for
James
me.
gets a lot of credit for a lot of things. He doesn't get enough credit for his beard.
It's good.
It's majestic. It's
Yeah.
so well crafted.
Well, that's because everybody's so busy looking at his hairline
And
and,
his
that
shoes.
whole
And his
thing
shoes.
going on there. Yeah.
He's got a lot going on for him.
He does.
Okay, let's get back to the whole 2 to 3 words thing. Biggest train wreck team in the NBA today.
Oh man, that's a great question. The Bulls certainly looked like they were not going to be that team, but they're becoming it rather fast. Makes me sad.
I would say the Kings. I thought that team was going to be so much fun to watch, and it just hasn't come together. And it's yet another year of the Kings being terrible.
I'll
And that
remind
was
you
way
guys-
more than 3 words.
Yeah, we are struggling.
We're going to change the rules next time,
Okay.
or we're going to follow the rules next time. The Hawks don't have 10 wins yet. That's a problem, and let's move on. Last question, and this is my favorite. We got to bring it back to Chicago. This show is indeed in Chicago, and we haven't mentioned Chicago yet today. So, the United Center is burning down.
Okay.
Okay? You can only save Nikola Mirotic or Bobby Portis. Who do you save?
Mirotic.
Why?
Because Bobby Portis played at Arkansas, and I'm from Missouri, so I can't save Bobby Portis.
Okay, fair.
I'm going to say Bobby Portis because a fist like that is definitely an asset you'd like to have around.
But Mirotic has been through enough this year. I don't know. Guys, thank you for playing my new game, which is going to evolve over time. That's all we have for this week. Thanks for tuning in, and be sure to come back next week when we'll continue our discussion about the NFL and send you around the world of sports. For all our anchors and analysts this week, I'm Lauren Rosen. We'll see you next time here on Medill Sports Talk.